It's Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video I'm going to take a look at a case for those of you that don't like RGB but do want your PC to run very cool, very quiet and look very, very slick, but also want to keep an eye on things like your temperatures and some of your system stats. So this is the lancool 207 digital. So some of you may have seen a previous video we did on the 207. This is the digital version. So what they do with the digital version is they remove the RGB fans, but they do give you a fantastic 6-inch LCD display. Now this display is powered from USB and can double up as either a secondary monitor. So if you maybe want to run this as some kind of server, and you just want to have some of your server stats on the front, but you don't want to have a monitor hooked up, then potentially you can do that. But for most of you, I think you're going to want to use it as a statistics display. So this runs in conjunction with the Lian Li Connect software. And in there, you can do a whole host of different things, such as setting up different displays, different backgrounds. You can have it monitor your CPU, your GPU, your fan speeds, basically pretty much anything you can think of. And it's all fully customizable. There are some presets baked in, and also you can download some other contributions from other users around the world who have uploaded them to the Lian Li website. All of that you can find out actually on the Lian Li website, which I'll link in the video description, as I will for links for the product itself. Now for those of you who are wondering, at the moment it is only available in this nice stealthy black colour. Potentially there might be a white version, I don't know at the moment. At the time of recording, which is towards the middle of May 2025, all that exists at the moment is this stunningly sleek black version, which I really, really like. I did like the design previously, the standard 207, and this, in my opinion, takes it up a notch. It just looks very, very slick. I like this, and if you're into doing a stealthy type of build, then this is going to be great. And of course, if you want to, you can RGB the bejesus out of it by adding additional fans should you want to, but I don't think you're going to want to, because it does come with actually 4 pre-installed fans. In the front here, behind this metal mesh, we've got 2 140mm fans. They spin between somewhere around about the 450 to 1800 RPM, and I've got very good static pressure, move with absolute ton of air. And at the bottom, to keep your GPU nice and cool, there's 2 120mm fans, both with similar sort of rotational speeds. They are slightly higher, between 500 and 1950 RPM. Again, high static pressure, and they're going to be great for keeping your graphics card cool, especially if you are going to be a hardcore gamer, or you're like me, you do video editing and you find your GPU is just pounding it, trying to keep itself cool. Having those fans at the bottom are going to keep your GPU nice and cool to make rendering a little bit quicker, at least, hopefully. So there you go, that is the introduction out of the way. Today we're going to go through this case, take it all apart, go through all the finer details of it, and hopefully at the end of the video you'll know whether or not this is going to be suitable for your next build. Now actually, before I start going into tearing it down, let's talk about pricing. So at the moment, even though this does include a 6-inch LCD display, it isn't actually that much more expensive than the standard 207. This one comes in at just a shade under £100 here in the UK at the middle of May 2025. The standard version is somewhere around the 70, 75, 80 pounds mark, depending where you're shopping. So it's kind of somewhere between 20 and 30 pounds more expensive for the LCD screen, which I think is actually very reasonable and certainly better than some other brands I could mention. Of course, as always, there will be affiliated links in the video description so you can check out pricing in your local region and also current pricing, so do check those links out. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's take a look at the case itself. So this is for ATX motherboards. It will take micro ATX as well, and also ITX if for some bizarre reason you feel that is necessary. The measurements come in at 456mm tall, 455mm long, and 219mm wide, so it's actually quite a compact chassis. Right, finally, let's start taking this thing apart and taking a closer look. So the front panel section, I love this. This looks great. It's very, very slick. It's very understated, but fantastic cooling performance. And obviously they've worked out what the deal is with this particular chassis layout. Obviously the bottom section, because this is kind of like a 2-section system, so you've got kind of like your business section up the top here, and you've got your basement section down the bottom. Now clearly for most people in the basement section, we don't tend to have loads of hard drives and things like that these days, so it's kind of a bit pointless trying to push a load of air down there. So they've slapped a lovely screen on the front, as you can see there. So that is integrated nicely. And actually, I'm not too sure what the technology is in the screen itself. To me personally, it looks a lot like IPS. I don't think it's an OLED. I honestly couldn't tell the difference anyway, but the viewing angles are fantastic. So even if this isn't going to be facing directly at you, you're still going to be able to see the screen very nice. It's got really nice punchy colors. And again, if you are going to be using it as a kind of secondary or tertiary monitor, then you can see it in there very nicely. The resolution of the screen is 720 by 1600, so nice and detailed. And again, the images on there look absolutely fantastic. So let's move back up to the fan section. Now for maintenance purposes, or if you want to take the fans out to replace them with other fans if you really wanted to, it's super easy to do. It's held on with magnets, excellent technology, and there's a little kind of section here which is indented, so you just get your fingers in there and it comes off reasonably easily. It's not going to come off accidentally, and it's actually, even though it is perforated metal, it actually feels quite strong. So that is really good, nice and easy to clean. There isn't a secondary dust filter behind this, although realistically, due to the kind of relatively tight porous nature of this front grille, I don't think you're realistically going to need it. But potentially if you're in an extremely dusty environment, then yeah, maybe you might want to think about dust filtration. But I think for most people, it's going to be absolutely fine. So taking the filter out of the way, we can see what we've got going on here. So there's a slight recess, and it is kind of angled or channeled to get the airflow in towards these fans. Now the fans on here are actually a little bit thicker than usual. So these are 30mm thickness, whereas traditionally when we're looking at PC case fans, they generally are 25mm. We have seen occasional ones of 28mm, but these are 30mm. So that means you've got a kind of stronger motor on there, so you can get a little bit more torque into the motor. Now, some of you are going to be thinking already, well, I kind of like it, but what if I want to change out the fans? Now you can change out the fans, but only for 140mm fans. There's no option for 120s behind here, but they do include in the accessories box some additional screws. So if you want to put 28mm fans in, you can do. If you want to put 25mm fans in, you can do. Those screws are included, so you don't have to kind of worry about that too much. But I think personally, most people, you're probably going to be buying this because of the fan setup that's in it already, but the option is there, which I think is a positive thing. Also, because of the nature of the setup for the 140s, because there's no additional metal in the way for the optional 120s, if you kind of wanted to go down that route, which you can't, it means it's a very, very clear straight through pass. So the blades aren't obstructed in any way, shape or form. So you're going to get all the airflow going all through the case. So next we'll take a look at the side section. So the side section, again, very sleek, very slick, kind of very functional as well. So you've got the glass on the side here, nice thick tempered glass with edges all around. This bit is only up to the kind of the basement level, and they've left the basement section at the bottom here with this nice perforation. So this is going to be suitable because the power supply in this is actually in a new position. So what Lian Li have done with this case, they've kind of rejigged the ATX layout a little bit. So rather than having your traditional layout where you've got your power supply at the back, which often can prevent air getting into your GPU in some instances, they've actually moved the power supply towards the front section, which we'll see shortly when I remove this panel. Also, the benefits of that is your two fans, which are pre-installed here, actually are directly underneath your graphics card. So you're going to get the air going straight into the GPU and especially in towards those hotspots. Now, removing it is simplicity itself. First of all, remove the glass. There's a little indentation here. So just put on that and that comes out very nicely. It's actually really thick glass as well, which is quite reassuring. And then to remove the basement section, undo the two thumb screws at the back, which are captive. Then you slide the panel backwards and then you can pull away. Very nice. Again, similar sort of mesh to what we've got on the front panel to give you a nice cohesive design. So with that out of the way, we can get a better look inside and see what's actually going on here. And again, we can see where the PSU basement is. So this is now facing kind of with your power supply, the plug going in here. Don't worry, they have included this cable which routes along the inside. So you still plug in your power supply cable at the back of the case. It's just extended through here and into this section here. This also means that you do have to be slightly careful with your power supply choices, because if you are having the power supply with the fan face up, then you may need to have specific layouts for the actual connectivity, although realistically it's going to work either way because you can just put it in there. It's actually supported on some really nice foam as well, so even if you've got like one or two screws holding the power supply in, it's still going to be absolutely fine. Also, when it comes to the power supply, so you can get ventilation from two places. So you can get ventilation from this top section. There's some hexagonal mesh there, so you're going to let your airflow come in there to your power supply, which is actually quite beneficial and will lower your PSU temps because you've got your nice cool air being forced in from these 140mm fans at the front, which is then going to be pulled straight into your power supply and then ejected out of the side of the case, keeping that hot air away from the rest of your PC components. Alternatively, obviously, if you have your power supply mounted the other way around with the fan at the bottom, which is the kind of, I guess, the more traditional route, don't worry, they've still got you covered. There is a removable dust filter on the bottom and plenty of ventilation. So either way you do it, it's going to be absolutely fine, but you do have options there. So then that takes us along to the secondary section of this power supply basement area. So this is where we've got our two 120mm fans. They are facing towards the graphics card. So it's going to be able to pull in cool air from either this side section here through the mesh, or alternatively from the back as well. That is also very open, or even from the rear, because there is also ventilation on there as well. So you're going to get all this nice cool fresh air coming in from the bottom, hitting your fans, going in towards your graphics card, which generally graphics cards are going to have fans which are going to force the air either kind of outward or upward. And if it's going upward, obviously convection is going to take it up through. So you have a nice selection of cool air coming in through the rest of the PC. So at this point, it's probably a good idea to take a look at the motherboard mounting, because this is a little bit different as well. So they've actually sunken the motherboard into the tray. So it does sink in quite a few millimeters there, which actually is pretty good as well, because then you've got the option to route your cables through the side so they can go straight in, which keeps cable management nice and neat. All the standoffs are pre-installed for the ATX layout. Obviously, if you want to put micro ATX in there, you just have to move them around, or same with ITX. But that's all done fantastically. You've got loads of cutouts as well in this bottom section for passing cables through into your motherboard. So lots of cutouts at the back, nice and easy to access. And also for those of you that are using slightly more heavy duty graphics cards, let's say, there is actually a cutout here at the front as well. So you can take things like your 12-volt high power, or maybe 2 or 3 8-pin PCI Express cables straight up through here and into your graphics card. Maybe even a Lian Li strimmer if you're kind of going down that RGB route. Some other key features as well. There is an integrated GPU support bracket, which is just down here. There's actually 3 positions that can sit in as well. So if you've got a shorter graphics card, you can put it towards this end. If you've got a longer one, towards this end. It will support graphics cards in here of up to 375mm in length. And when it comes to CPU tower coolers, because we've got that recessed motherboard, it actually gives us a little bit more room. So you can have up to 180mm CPU tower coolers, which for a relatively compact chassis, it's actually massive. Generally, kind of 160 is about the maximum for tower coolers these days. So yeah, even if you've got a larger tower cooler in there, like perhaps one of the D15s, then you're still going to have plenty of room. Something which has been omitted on this design, which I'm kind of glad but also a little bit disappointed, is we don't have any option for the rear connect motherboards. Now, I think this is probably a wise decision, because of its recessed nature and also the kind of compact size, you don't have the room at the back to actually do rear connect motherboards anyway, so having the cutouts is pointless. So I'm glad they haven't tried to do that, because I think that would just make life very difficult for a lot of builders and add some confusion to the mix. So this is not for rear connect motherboards at all. Also, if you're looking at kind of spacing out your wiring, especially for your ATX main power, there's also a pass through here. Now this is going to be useful for those of you that are using the Lian Li strimmer type cables, so those do take up a little bit of room. You won't be able to pass it through that side section, so having the rubber grommet there does give you that option. Next, looking at the top, so absolutely tons of room there at the top. So if you are looking at putting radiators in the top, you've got around about 55mm of clearance between the radiators and the top of the motherboard. So lots of room for even some of the more chunky AIOs. That's not going to be a problem at all. And also you're still going to gain access to the connections at the top of your motherboard without having to kind of rip everything out, which is excellent. When it comes to the top section, so you can put in a 360mm AIO. You can also use a 280mm AIO should you wish to, or you can have combinations of 3 120mm fans or 2 140mm fans. So I think that's pretty much it for the interior side of it. Let's take a look at the rear. So as you can see, this is just Mesh City. It's very, very open. You've also got the removable PCI Express brackets, all of which are removable and replaceable, as you would expect with the premium case. So that's really good. There isn't any kind of default method of doing vertical mounting for GPUs straight out of the box. You will need to purchase a kind of add-on. Lian Li do actually a vertical GPU mount kit if you wanted to purchase that separately, or there are other aftermarket ones in here which potentially may fit as well. If you take out the brackets, it is completely open, so you don't have too many restrictions there, but obviously I would recommend getting the Lian Li one just for full compatibility. It's basically the same as the one for the O11. So anyway, like I said, tons and tons of mesh there. You've got your IO shield, etc., nicely recessed, no sharp edges. And also you've got your power connection at the back here for the ATX power supply, which then passes through towards the front. Now let's take a look at the back of the case. So not really a lot to look at here, but we do have some ventilation at the bottom. Again, this is going to be where the fans are going to be trying to draw in some fresh air. So depending where your PC is, if it's kind of up against the wall or whatever, it can get ventilation from kind of all sides. So that's absolutely fine. And also it's a toolless design for the back. So there's a little indentation. Just get your finger in there and there are some pop clips. That comes out and then you can remove the back plate in its entirety. And now we can get a closer look at what is going on in the back here. So you've got loads of room for cable management. These recessed channels all around here are excellent. There is something they do mention actually in the kind of the blurb on the website is depending on your power supply, the EPS connection, because your power supply is kind of down here rather than being over here, you do need to have at least 600mm cable length for your EPS or 8-pin CPU connectors. So do bear that in mind. If you're using a slightly cheaper power supply, just look at the measurements, make sure it's at least 600mm. Obviously, if you wanted to, you can just add cable extensions. That isn't a problem and they're relatively inexpensive. But if you do want it to route across nicely, then you will need to have that 600mm of length. Now, talking of the 600mm length and routing it through, so you've got some little sections here. I think I said this on the 207. I don't quite understand these bits here. So these are for kind of routing your cables through, but they're kind of upside down, in my opinion. They should be hooked the other way, so the cables can kind of sit in there. I really don't understand that because you're probably going to need a cable tie or something in there to hold it in place. It's a slightly strange design in my opinion. I'm not too sure why that is, and I don't think they can even be reversed either because of the nature of them. But anyway, it is what it is. So that is your cable track along there. Then also you've got 3 lots of Velcro management as well, and it's also kind of multiple layers. So you can put 1 layer of cables at the base. Then also when you take the Velcro off, you can put some in there as well. And also there is the layer underneath there as well. So lots of options for cable management there. In terms of the kind of the room there, it's absolutely fine. I would have probably have liked to see maybe a little bit more room around here for maybe things like RGB controllers, that sort of thing. But I guess because this case being slightly more on the stealthy and definitely of the kind of no RGB variety, then it's one of those things that isn't really important. You can always stick them underneath here or around this section. It's, yeah, it's absolutely fine. You can even put them in here. There are places for it to go, just I would like to see a bit more room here. There is about 10mm here of depth, so if you do have to run some cables up through there, it isn't the end of the world, although realistically, there's no reason why you should do. So talking of the cables, let's pull these out so we can have a look at what was going on here. So there is a USB cable. So this is the one that goes into your motherboard for powering up the LCD screen on the front. So this is using USB onboard headers on your motherboard. What they've actually done is if for some reason, maybe you're using all of your USB connections already for some other Lian Li peripherals maybe, and you don't have a spare connector, they've actually included in the box both a pass-through and also an extension cable which converts the USB 9 pin into a traditional socket A or type A plug. So you can just connect that into the end here, and then you can put this through at the back and out through one of these PCI Express blanking plates and then into the back of your motherboard. So it's nice long cable as well, so it's going to stretch even if you're using the USBs at the very top, it's going to be absolutely fine. So that is included as well. And again, PCI Express blanking plate with that little pass through there, so you can kind of run the cable through there so it doesn't crimp it or catch it, which is excellent. And actually while we're doing that, let's take a look at the other accessories. So you do obviously get a owner's manual telling you how everything works, how to build a PC, etc, etc. And also being Lian Li, you get the little plastic box which has got your kind of thanks for buying Lian Li products, and also a bunch of accessories for building your PC, some extra cable wraps. You've got the screws for the smaller fans if you want to put those in the front, and also some dividers so you can manage this nicely. Also for things like the snap-ins for the metal parts of the case, you've got some replacement plastic parts as well. Those do tend to be a bit brittle after a few years, so they've added, I think there's 4 or 5 in there, so if you ever need to replace them, it's going to be absolutely fine. Also for the GPU as well, they've actually included a bit of foam as well, so if for some reason your GPU mount, the actual support bracket, isn't quite big enough, there's a little foam pad there which you can put on top of it just to give it a little bit more height should you need to. And also it's got some adhesive on the bottom as well to stick it actually to the bracket. So yeah, they've thought of pretty much everything. There's some cable ties in there as well. So yeah, everything you would really need to get yourself up and running. If you're a novice and this is kind of like your first time build, you basically got everything you need except a screwdriver. Anyway, that is the accessories out of the way. Let's take a look at the rest of the cabling. So for the front panel connections, we've got our USB Type-C. You've also got a USB 3.0. that is the Type A connections. 2 cables in there, so that means there's going to be 2 ports. You've also got your HD audio cable, which is absolutely massive, very long, so routing that through is going to be no problems at all. So if you want to be very, very kind of precise, let's say, about your cable management, I was going to use another word, but YouTube doesn't like that word, so I won't say it. Anyway, you know what I mean. Also, you've got a PWM connector, so that is for the front 2 fans. You only got a single plug for the 2 fans, that's all pre-wired together. So to minimize what you actually need to do, and you don't need hubs and stuff like that, you can just plug that straight into your motherboard. So that's excellent. So that's your incoming fans. And also there is a molded plug for the front panel connector. Now I said this on the previous version, the 207, the non-digital. It's only got a power button. There's no reset button. There's no LEDs for telling you the PC's on or hard drive activity. It's literally the power switch. So they could have just done a single plug on there like a traditional normal one, but they've done the whole block connector to make life easier, I guess. So anyway, there it is. It's absolutely fine. And with all that out of the way, and also with the back panel off, we can see straight through here. So again, power supply mounting area here. Ideally, obviously, the Lian Li new power supplies with the edge connector on the bottom is going to work absolutely fantastically in there if you wanted to go down that route. But realistically, kind of any power supply tool is going to be fine. I would say for those that are a little bit cautious, then 160mm, maybe 165mm, depending on the cables on your power supply, is going to be about the maximum you can get in there. Most power supplies these days tend to be kind of 140, 150, so you shouldn't have any issues at all. Even with those which are modular and have slightly larger modular connectors, shouldn't be a problem at all. If you've got any comments or questions about that, please feel free to reach out on Discord or just send me an email, mike@mikesunboxing.com, or just leave a comment on this video and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. So moving further along, you've got loads of cable management tracks at the bottom as well. There's also an additional PWM plug there, so that is for the 2 fans in there, which are for the GPU. So those, again, 2 fans but connected with 1 cable, so that's excellent, minimizing cable management. And also for those of you that still like to use your spinning rust drives, then you've got some brackets on the bottom on thumb release screws. So undo the thumb release, you can remove this plate, and then you can attach either a 3.5 inch or 2.5 inch drive to this plate. There are 2 plates included. If you don't want them in there, you can remove them in their entirety. That choice is entirely up to you. Next, taking a look at the bottom section. Now, actually, I think they've made a wise decision on this as well. The power supply basement, the filter on the bottom, actually pulls out towards the front, which actually kind of makes a lot of sense in this particular instance, because obviously you've got the screen on the front. So people that are buying this case probably going to have the PC facing towards them. So having it come out towards the front is a wise decision, in my opinion. And also, there's very little point actually having filtration down this bottom section, because you've got the ventilation on both sides anyway, and also the rear. So it's kind of, yeah, it doesn't really need any more ventilation, and it would just add more expense and more complexity to the filter. Something which I don't entirely like is the fact that the feet are actually quite slimline. I would have liked to have seen the feet raised up just a few more millimeters. They are very slim, but they seem to do a fantastic job. And of course, like I said previously, and obviously numerous times by now, you've got all that ventilation on the sides and also the back. So if it can't pull air in from the bottom, it's going to pull it in elsewhere. And finally, that takes us round to the top of the case. So as you can see on the top, again, we've got more of that tight mesh, which is excellent and very easy to keep clean. To remove the top section, there's a little latch on the back, so just pull that out, and it's all on those little plastic retainers that we talked about earlier, which are replaceable. The mesh on here is a little bit more open than it is towards the front, so letting some of that heat escape from the top, which is excellent. And again, because it's kind of like a frameless design, there's lots and lots of options to get airflow through here. And you can see there's also the options here for the 120mm fan mounts. So if you want to do a 360mm AIO, absolutely fine. We'll probably give you a little bit more room between the motherboard. Or if you want to go for a 280, that's absolutely fine as well. Or again, if you want to go for fans, 3 120s or 2 140s, no problems whatsoever. And actually, while we're in this section here, we'll take a look at the front I/O. There isn't a lot of it, to be fair, but it's all very functional. So you've got a USB Type-C over in this section here. You've then got your combo headset mic jack. You've got your power button in the middle. Then you've got your USB 3.0s, Type A's, 2 of those. So there you go, there is a teardown of the Lian Li lancool 207 digital. it would only be fair to take a look at the software. So let's take a look at L-Connect 3 and we'll take a look at what you can do with this LCD front panel. Now, to be honest with you, it's actually very simplistic. You go in, make your changes, you can apply them. You can use the presets, which you're probably seeing from the B-roll I filmed a little bit earlier. So there's some baked in presets, which you can make use of, which are actually really nice as well. Alternatively, you can also use the screen on here as a secondary or tertiary or whatever the next one is, monitor. So if you've already got multiple monitors, you can still have it as another one. That is entirely up to you. Like I said, if you're going to run this as some kind of server somewhere, then you can use that as a display just to make sure your server's on and check any kind of syntax errors that might be on the screen. I don't know, that choice is up to you, but it's actually quite useful. And again, if you are someone who's either a gamer or you're into video editing, having some of your system stats on there, so when you're rendering out a video, you can see how much your GPU is being punished, or if you're playing a game, you can see how hard your CPU is being hammered, trying to get 500 FPS from the latest games. The choices are essentially up to you. You can customize the screen pretty much however you want to. You can actually import videos, JPEGs. You can also use some of the video editing suite, which is actually incorporated into the L-Connect 3 software for this screen. So you can go in, you can actually set it to do a screen capture for a still, or you can even record video on the screen. And you can also trim it, edit it, adjust saturation, coloration, all that kind of stuff, and then import that into your own profile onto your screen so you can make it absolutely yours, which is absolutely great. And you're probably seeing some footage where I pulled in the kind of Doctor Who section from the start of our live stream and put some of the stats over the top of it. It's all very easy to do. It takes a little bit of kind of working out where things go, but yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And if you want that kind of flexibility, it's all there. And no doubt, Lian Li being Lian Li, they will keep on adding more and more functionality to it as time goes on. So there you go, that has been the Lian Li lancool 207 digital. I think it's actually a worthy successor or partner to the 207. I really like the 207, and those of you that have already watched that video will know that I thought very highly of it. I am a little bit disappointed they've dropped the RGB. Being completely honest, I would like to see them have the option to have the RGB version, so having maybe just a couple of RGB fans in the front would be cool, but yeah, as with anything, it's going to come down to price and also consumer demand. So let us know in that comment section, would you prefer to see this with an RGB option, or would you prefer maybe to take the fans out and include your own RGB ones should you wish to do that? I guess with a lot of brands these days, especially Lian Li, if they're using their 30mm high performance fans in the front there, it's going to add to the cost. So they kind of have to work out who this is aimed for, who's likely to buy it. And I think in this kind of stealthy black look, it's very much for kind of like the more, I dare say, grown-up PC enthusiast who just likes a stylish PC and isn't really that bothered about all the bling, but they do want to have the option of seeing system stats on the screen, which I think is actually quite handy. And some people have that on a secondary monitor anyway, like a vertical monitor next to your desk. So it's kind of handy to have it there and also have it built into the software. And especially if you're into the Lian Li ecosystem, then it's just another great addition. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the Lian Li lancool 207 digital. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, smash the like button. If you want to see more content like this on a daily basis, maybe consider hitting subscribe and also the chime notification. That way you're notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.